All right, that's Ken Tillery, and on the phone joining me now is David Fulmer. David, I can hear you in the background. Welcome back to KGNU.
Oh, thanks very much. It's good to be talking to you again after all this time.
Yes, it's been a New York minute now, hasn't it? But
Uh-huh.
in reality, you and I have seen each other a number of times, but we haven't had you on the radio since you wrote that fabulous book that I love so much, called
Oh,
Chasing the Devil's Tail by David Fulmer. That's what got me onto you, and I'm
hmm
just going to tell people again because I mention it many, many times, particularly when I do a traditional jazz show and we're looking at New Orleans jazz, about how important Buddy Bolden was and how little is known about Buddy Bolden, hailed as the king of jazz. Well, perhaps you could tell people about Buddy Bolden, David, rather than me.
Oh, okay. Well, Buddy Bolden was, in short, America's first music crash and burn story. He was a fairly average fellow who became a musician, and nobody really invented jazz, but he was its original progenitor. And unfortunately, he lived a tragic life and ended up in an insane asylum, and which is where he spent the rest of his life. But his influence lives on.
To be sure, and the book that you wrote places him in a fictional set, not a fictional setting, in a real setting called Storyville, which was
Right.
legalized prostitution area in New Orleans from 1898 to 1912.
It was legally, it was 1897 to 1917, but
Excellent.
it existed as a open secret for 50 years before that.
Right.
The red light district.
And it is a fascinating piece of American history, but certainly New Orleanian history. And very little is known about Buddy Bolden, but you told a fascinating tale, David, about Bolden and what might have happened to him in the bowels, in the midst, in the belly of the beast of Storyville. So, great book by David Fulmer, but that's not what we're talking
Uh,
about today. The name of the book, again, Chasing the Devil's Tail, Tale. And it's at the Boulder Public Library because I insisted that they get it way back when. David,
well, thank you for that.
you bet. You had reached out because you want to talk about this film about blind Willie McTell.
Yes.
So,
Uh, many years ago, I produced a movie, a documentary film called Blind Willie's Blues about the life and the times and the music of blind Willie McTell. And as Bob Dylan reminds us, no one sang the blues like blind Willie McTell. And it went into a hiatus, into mothballs for about 20 years. And then the South Georgia Folklife Project, which is at Valdosta State University in South Georgia, had somehow found a copy, and it was on YouTube, but it was a really, really rough version. I got in touch with them. We did a digital version and posted it, and it's really kind of taken off and picked up a lot of views. And it's now on YouTube, Blind Willie's Blues.
excellent. And I've seen it. So, but David, also, I wanted you to describe yourself to our listeners. I know you as an author, but I
Yes.
also describe you as a musicologist because you've been writing about music for a long, long time. Yeah.
Yes. Well, everything. I was a music journalist for many years, and I took that into the fiction, of course. But everything that I've written, whether fiction or nonfiction, has to do with American music, specifically, for the most part, American roots music, blues and jazz, and a little bit of rock and roll in there. And that's what has always sort of enthralled me. It's what interested me about McTell since I first stumbled upon him, finding the album Atlanta 12 string in the PX in Heidelberg, Germany, when I was in the military. And I always wanted to do something, tell his story, because he was such a brilliant, brilliant talent. And his misfortune was that he died just before the folk revival of the 60s, where he would have been a major, major talent with his musicality and his presence and his just great talent as an entertainer.
Yeah, I'm seeing that now and trying to prepare for this interview. I do have some Blind Willie queued up, as well as Dylan's saga of Blind Willie. And then I've got the Allman Brothers and Dave Bromberg both doing Statesboro Blues. But also here in the so our guest is David Fulmer, spelled Fulmer. If you want to find him online, you've got a website. But also, we want to draw people to this film, right, David?
Yes. I mean, it's free. It's only 52 minutes long. We've got Taj Mahal is one of the people I interviewed. Daphne Duvall Harrison, who is a music historian, a late music historian, who talks about the earliest blues before McTell. Stephen Grossman, some of your listeners will know Stephen Grossman, the guitar master. Also McTell's former brother-in-law. And finally, Ahmet Ertegun, who founded Atlantic Records and did that amazing recording, Atlanta 12 String, first in 1949, but then it was reissued in the 70s.
So I'm just reading the press on this, and it says one of the novels, The Dying Crapshooter Blues, which has always been a favorite song of mine, was that written by McTell?
Dying Crapshooter's Blues has this really interesting history, and it's connected to St. James Infirmary. And by the way, a guy named Robert Harwood and I are working on a podcast having to do with the history of St. James Infirmary.
Very cool.
Dying Crapshooter's Blues and Gambler's Blues are both sort of came out of St. James Infirmary. So McTell did his own personal version with a whole narrative about a person named Jesse Williams, which nobody's been able to really identify. And so he did his own version, and it's set in Atlanta, and he talks about these locations in Atlanta. But it was inexistent, one version or another, for 30, 40 years before he first recorded it.
Well, maybe because I love Dave Bromberg's version of that, I'll play that rather than the Statesboro Blues. But that is Blind Willie McTell's most famous song that he wrote. Did he write it?
What? Which one?
Statesboro.
Dying Crapshooter's Blues?
No, Statesboro.
Statesboro Blues, yeah. Statesboro Blues would definitely be his most iconic song. And Taj Mahal, again, for his first album, did that version with Jesse Williams on slide guitar. It was the Allman Brothers who heard Taj Mahal's version and did their iconic version on the Live at the Fillmore album, and just did such an amazing, amazing job with it.
Yeah, so, and full disclosure too, David, you are a Georgia resident, so a lot of focus, and Mr. McTell was also a Georgia resident.
He was a lifelong Georgia resident. He was born actually in Thompson in South Georgia, and but spent most of his life in Atlanta, where I live. I'm originally a Yankee, though. I'm from a small town in central Pennsylvania, but been here for many years, and have been able to visit a lot of the places that McTell, where he walked in his footsteps.
Very cool. So again, the film is called Blind Willie's Blues, so people can just Google that on YouTube and watch it.
Yep. And it's we were just informed by Dallas Suttles at South Georgia Folklife Project that they've added closed captions, which I thought was really neat. And now, so it's closed caption. It's a really nice digital version, and I think your listeners in particular will enjoy it.
Excellent, excellent. Our guest is David Fulmer. David, how can people reach you? Or all your books are in all the finest bookstores, independently owned across the country. But besides
Yes.
that, I found your website. Is that where you want to direct people to? Should they want to contact you?
Well, I have the website, which is my name, davidfulmer.com, and there's a link on there if you want to. Anybody wants to email me, have any questions or comments. They can check out all the books and a few other projects that I've done, a particular podcast that I created. Also, I do have an author page on Facebook, and so they can visit that as well, and that's where I sort of announce the most recent news, like coming on the KGNU, for instance.
Fabulous. Well, it's really great to hear your voice, David. And
Likewise.
I'll see you again in New Orleans or wherever the currents may take us. Our guest is David Fulmer. We're going to get back to the music now, David, and I'm going to play all these things that we've been talking about. But I'm going to let you go.
Excellent.
And I thank you.
Okay, I'll be listening.
Okay, I thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. Please tell your lovely wife I said hi. And
I will.
I'll catch you on the flip-flop.
I'll catch you on the flip.
All righty. See ya.
Good night.
Good night. All right. So first off, we're going to listen to some blind Willie McTell. I've got a rough guide here. And we're going to hear a gospel one called God Don't Lie.